Welcome! Today we are jumping right into what is probably one of the most intense, most debated chapters in the entire Bible, Matthew 24. It's a prophecy that has captivated people for literally centuries. And believe it or not, it all starts with a seemingly simple conversation about a building. So, I want you to picture the scene. Jesus and his disciples, they're walking away from this absolutely magnificent temple in Jerusalem. And the disciples, they're just in awe, pointing out the amazing architecture. But what starts as a casual remark is about to kick off one of the most significant prophecies in the entire New Testament. Okay, so to really get the gravity of what's happening in Matthew 24, we actually have to back up just a little bit to the very end of chapter 23. Because, context is everything here. It's absolutely crucial. Right before Jesus walks out of the temple for what will be the last time in his ministry, he delivers this incredibly stark judgment against the religious leaders. He doesn't just quietly leave. He leaves them with this final, chilling declaration. See, this is the context that frames everything to come. Jesus had just spent the whole chapter calling out the hypocrisy of the scribes and Pharisees. He basically holds them responsible for generations of injustice. And then he says the consequences for all of it, they're going to fall on their generation. So when he says their house, and he's talking about the temple, will be left desolate, this isn't some random prediction. Now, it's a direct consequence of their action. So with all that heaviness hanging in the air, how do we get to this prophecy? Well, as they're leaving, it seems like the disciples maybe didn't quite grasp the full weight of Jesus' words. Because in verse 1 of chapter 24, their focus is still on the temple's sheer physical beauty.
And you really have to understand, this was not just any old building. This was Herod's temple. It was a 40-year construction project, this massive architectural wonder known for its goodly stones and just pure grandeur. For the disciples, for any Jew at that time, this building was the center of their entire world. It was a symbol of national pride, of their spiritual identity. The idea of it being destroyed, it was just unthinkable.
And then in verse 2, Jesus responds. Can you imagine the absolute shock? As they're gushing over its glory, he turns to them and says, "None of it, not a single piece will be left standing." He predicts total, complete, and utter destruction. The contrast there is just staggering. Now, that phrase, "not one stone upon another," it was actually a pretty common expression back then. It was kind of like a proverb for total destruction. But what is just astounding here is that this prophecy would end up being fulfilled with a chilling, almost unbelievable literalness just a few decades down the road. And history absolutely confirms this. During the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD, the general Titus, he actually wanted to save the temple. But the historian Josephus, who was there, tells us that the Roman soldiers were just in a complete frenzy. After the fires raged, Titus ordered the very foundations to be dug up. The prophecy was fulfilled practically to the letter. This prediction had to be completely world-shattering for the disciples. It was so shocking that later that evening, they pulled Jesus aside. They need a private briefing. They have to understand what on earth this means. And the change of scenery here is really significant. They leave the grand public, often contentious temple area, and they go to the Mount of Olives. It's a much quieter, more reflective place, with a direct line of sight to the very temple whose destruction was just foretold. It's the perfect spot for a private, serious talk. And we learn from Mark's gospel that it's the inner circle, Peter, James, John, and Andrew, who come to him. They approach him privately because they have this one burning question about the timeline of these just incredible and, frankly, terrifying events. And here it is in verse 3. This is the crucial point of this whole section. They ask this two-part question. Now, on the surface, it really sounds like they're asking about one single event. But if you look really closely at how they word it, you can see they're unknowingly asking about two completely different events on two very, very different timelines. And let me tell you, understanding this distinction is the absolute key to unlocking the rest of Matthew 24. The first part, "When shall these things be?" that's about the destruction of the temple, something that would happen in their lifetime, in 70 AD. But the second part, about the sign of his coming and the end of the age, or the end of the world, well, that points to an event much, much farther in the future. The disciples thought they were asking one question, but Jesus is about to give them two very distinct answers. And that's exactly what we're going to explore as we keep going through this incredible chapter.